Good day, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Before anything else, can you please click the subscribe button? For today's video, I am going to discuss the part 2 of our discussion, Nature and Dynamics of Philippine Criminal Justice System. Let's move on with our topic, the term justice. Justice in the broadest sense consists of human relations in accordance with the general principles impartially applied. It is the observance of one's rights. Justice consists the ordering of human relations in accordance with general principles impartially applied. Accordingly, justice is accomplished by criminal justice agents who are flexible. Therefore, not everyone is treated alike, and what is just depends upon the circumstances of an act. Justice means giving each person what he or she deserves, or in more traditional terms, giving each person his or her due. Okay? When such conflict arise in our society, we need principles of justice that we can accept as a reasonable and fair standards for determining what people deserve. But many Filipinos are too poor to access justice. So bakit nga ba? Because poverty is also a big stumbling block because the majority of the population is still poor and they cannot afford the legal services. So even if they have access to public attorney, okay, kasi meron tayong mga PAO or tinatawag na mga public attorney officers, okay, which is meant for the poorest of the poor, okay, which is the public attorneys are undermanned, okay, and have huge backlog of cases. So, nagkukulang po tayo ng mga abogado. Okay, and also, with backlog of cases, marami silang mga cases na hinahawakan. So, as a result, the poor do not file cases knowing they are unable to afford a lawyer. And it will take years to their case to get resolved. That's why many of the Filipinos are too poor to access justice. Okay, therefore, not everyone is treated alike. So, who is Justicia? Justicia is the figure of justice. She is the goddess of justice and considered to be a symbol of justice. Okay? In her left hand, she holds the scale, symbolic of just weights for measuring goods and of having balanced opinions. And in her right hand, a sword, which to ensure that justice is the victor. To represent impartial judgment, she wears a blindfold. Lady Justice or Justicia is a blindfolded woman, okay, carrying a sword and a set of scales. It is a common symbol of courthouses and inside of some courtrooms. She symbolizes fair and equal. Okay? She symbolizes fair and equal administration of the law without corruption, favor, greed, or prejudice. Okay. So, the blindfold represents objectivity and impartiality. Okay. That justice should be meted out without fear or favor, regardless of money, wealth, or power. Hindi dapat masilaw ang ating hustisya sa wealth or power nung accused. Okay? Or any of the party. Okay? It should be meted out without fear or favor. Okay? And then, she holds a scale, timbangan. Ano nga ba ang sinisimbolize ng timbangan? It represents the weighing of evidence. Okay? Evidence must be weighted or weighed on its own merit. Okay? And she also uh, um, she also holds a sword. Okay. The sword which represents the punishment. Okay. Signifying that justice can be swift and final, she holds the sword below the scales to show that evidence weighted on its merit in a court of law comes before punishment. Kaya mas mababa, dyan sa figure na yan, mas mababa ang part ng sword kaysa sa scale na hawak ni Justicia is because dapat i-weigh muna yung mga evidence na ipipresent bago magbigay ng punishment. Because the sword represents punishment. Okay? And if you can observe, there is a snake under the foot. Okay? The snake under the foot of Justicia represents evil and lies. Okay? Evil and lies, and meron dyan book. Okay? The book represents our law. Okay? The constitution from which the justice is administered. There's a possibility that there are evils, there are lies in terms of administration of justice. But then, we need to seek for the proper justice. Kung kanino po ito dapat mas iserve. It should be weighted based on merits, based on the evidences presented by the parties. So, next, essence of justice under the Constitution. So, we have here Article 3, Section 1, 1987 Philippine Constitution. It says here that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall a person be deprived of the equal protection of the law. Okay. In order that justice will be realized, there must be the observance of due process. So, ano nga ba ang ibig sabihin ng Article 3, Section 1 under the 1987 Philippine Constitution? Okay. Ang karapatang ito ay nagsasabing hindi maaaring kitilin ang buhay ng isang tao nang walang due process. Okay. Ang life ay tumutukoy hindi lamang sa pagpapanatiling buhay ang isang tao. Okay. Kundi maging sa pangangalaga ng integridad ng katauhan. That human body is sacred. Okay. Ibig sabihin, kahit hindi ka pinatay, ngunit pinutol ang iyong kamay o binulag ang iyong mga mata, ito ay masasabing paglabag sa karapatan mong mabuhay. Ang liberty naman ay tumutukoy sa karapatan mong gawin ang iyong mga nais nang walang pakikialam mula sa ating gobyerno or sa ibang tao, gayunpaman ang iyong kalayaan ay hindi ganap. Okay? Maaari mo lamang gawin ang mga bagay kung hindi ito nakakaapekto sa ibang tao. So, let's say, yes, you have the freedom to do whatever. But then, you need to make sure na ang iyong ginagawa ay hindi makakaapekto sa ibang tao. That is your right to liberty. Okay? Ang right to property ay sumasakop sa mga iba't ibang intangible at tangible na properties ng isang tao. Okay? Ayon sa karapatang ito, maaari kang magmay-ari, okay, magbenta, o gumamit ng iyong mga property sa kahit na anong paraan basta hindi ito lumalagpas sa mga limitasyong itinakda ng ating batas. Okay? Yun po ang ibig sabihin ng the right to property. Okay? That's why no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall a person be deprived of equal protection of law. That's why, in order that justice will be realized, there must be the observance of due process. So, ano nga ba ang due process? Due process is a guarantee against any arbitrariness on the part of the government, whether committed by the legislative, executive, or judiciary. Due process balances the power of the laws of the land and protect the individual person from it. So, when the government harms a person without following the exact course of the law, this constitutes due process violation. Okay, so which of offense the rules of the law. Okay. That's why there should be the observance of due process. We have here two kinds of due process. Number one, we have the substantive due process. And number two, we have the procedural due process. Number one, substantive due process. It requires the intrinsic validity of the law in interfering the rights of person to his life, liberty, or property. So when we say substantive due process, it is a principle allowing courts to protect certain fundamental rights from the government interference. So ano po yung mga fundamental rights na yan or mga basic rights natin? That is our rights to life, liberty, or property. Substantive due process serves as the restriction on the government's law and rule-making powers. If a law is invoked to take away one's life, liberty, or property, the more specific concern of substantive due process is not to find out whether the said law is being enforced in accordance without procedural formalities. Okay. But whether the said law is proper exercise of legislative power. Okay. So you need to take note that the example of substantive due process is publication of laws. It is a part of the substantive due process. It is a rule of law that before a person be bound by the law, he must be officially and specifically informed of its content. So, ano ba ang example ng substantive due process? Okay. An employee, right? Okay. Okay, ito po ang example. An employee's right not to be dismissed without just or authorized cause as provided by the law is covered by his right to substantive due process. So, ibig sabihin, bago mo tanggalin ang isang empleyado sa kanyang trabaho, dapat may valid kang rason. At ang rason na yan ay ayon sa batas ay pwedeng dahilan para tanggalin mo siya sa kanyang trabaho. Okay? That is an example of substantive due process. So, dapat ma-inform mo siya kung ano ang reason bakit mo siya tatanggalin. At ang reason na yon ay dapat valid. Siya po ay nakabase sa batas. Okay? Na pwedeng maging rason na siya ay tanggalin mo sa kanyang trabaho. That is substantive due process. And for procedural due process, it says here that it is one which hears before it condemns, which proceeds upon inquiry. So, there must be a notice of hearing. So, procedural due process refers to the regular methods of procedure, okay, to be observed before one's life, liberty, or property can be taken away from that certain person. So, simply stated, procedure to be served must be fair. It is a guarantee to obtain a fair trial in a court of justice. So, according to the mode of proceeding applicable to each case. So, this includes not only the court of justice, but also all and any administrative bodies, courts, or tribunal. So, ibig sabihin, substantive due process, it refers to what should be done. While in procedural due process, it concerns how it should be done. Okay. Example sa procedural due process. So, kung tatanggalin mo ang isang empleyado sa kanyang trabaho, kailangan mo siyang i-inform na tatanggalin mo siya at kung ano ang rason bakit mo siya tatanggalin. So, after mo siyang ma-inform, kaya nga sabi dyan, there must be a notice of hearing. After mo siyang ma-inform, bigyan mo siya ng pagkakataon upang idepensa ang kanyang sarili. That is procedural due process. Next, let's move on to system. Okay. Kanina, we are talking about justice. And right now, we will move on to system. System refers to a body as a functional unit. A body defined as a collective unit and refers to a group or a mass. A system refers to the organization, administration, and operation of criminal justice, all the components involved with the prevention, control, and reduction of a crime, and delinquency must be conscious of their responsibility. A system is a set of things working together as parts of a mechanisms or an interconnecting network. So like in our criminal justice system, there are 5 pillars: the law enforcement, the prosecution, the court, the correction pillar, and the community pillar, wherein they are going to work together to obtain a common goal. Okay? That common goal is prevention, control, or reduction of crime and delinquency. So they must be responsible enough to meet all of their functions. Okay? To accomplish an overall goal, which is the prevention, control, or reduction of crime in our community. That is our criminal justice system. So the system-like process of criminal justice system. So in the Philippines, ito po ang sistema natin. So number 1, the police are responsible in gathering evidence and arresting the suspected law violator. After that, the prosecutor will be the one who is responsible for evaluating the case or evaluating the evidences that the police have gathered and deciding whether there is a sufficient ground to warrant the filing of charges against the alleged violator. And after that, let's says, nag-file na sila ng kaso. The defense attorney, whether privately retained or provided by the government, is responsible for defending the accused. So, kailangan niyang ipaglaban yung akusado. And then, after that, the judge during trial or hearing is an arbitrator in court who ensures that justice, the defense, and the prosecution adhere to the legal requirement of introducing evidence and examining and cross-examining the witnesses. So, si judge ang magsisigurado na dapat sumusunod sa mga legal requirements ang defense attorney at ang prosecution sa pagpe-present ng mga evidence at pag-e-examine at cross-examine ng mga witnesses. After that, the judge at the end of the trial renders decision. Okay? Magbibigay po siya ng hatol whether the accused is guilty or not guilty. Then after that, for example, the accused has been found guilty, the probation officers will conduct post-sentence investigation and will supervise convicted defendants placed under probation if they will be qualified for probation. And then after that, after convicting or after being convicted by final judgment, the prison system receives the defendant if convicted and sentenced and keeps them until the parole board grants them or they have completed their sentence. So, after niyang ma-serve yung kanyang sentence or mag-grant ng parole, finally, the parole department assists released prisoners in their return in the community. Okay, so that is the system-like process in our criminal justice system in the Philippines. So we have here main pillars of our CJS. Number 1, law enforcement pillar. This is known as the frontliner or prime mover of the CJS in the Philippines. Their functions is to arrest the offenders or violators of the law. But not only to arrest the offenders, they're also tasked to investigate, to other auxiliary functions like patrolling and any other administrative work in the organization. After that, second pillar, we have the prosecution. They are the one who will gather necessary evidence with the help of law or the law enforcer. They will be the one to determine the existence of prima facie case, if there is any sufficient ground, whether to engender a well-founded belief that he really committed a crime, whether there is a probable cause, and then sila po ang magpa-file ng information sa court. Okay? File and prosecute the case in court, and then after that, the number 3 pillar, we have the court. It is known as the center or core of the CJS. It is the arbitrary of or arbiter of justice. The court will conduct hearing and will render authoritative judgment. After that, the number 4 pillar, it is the correction pillar, which is considered as the weakest pillar in the CJS. Okay. The correction pillar control those who were convicted by the court and segregate them from the community. Okay. The correction pillar will be the one to have the custody of the convicted person. Doon po niya isa-serve sa loob ng kulungan ang kanyang sentensya. Then, after niyang iserve ang kanyang sentence, babalik po siya sa 5th pillar, which is the community pillar. It is the informal pillar of the CJS, and it is also known as the widest pillar. The place where the criminal comes from and where he will return. Kaya nga po cycle yan. Nanggaling ka sa community pillar, doon ka nag-commit ng crime, hinuli ka ng police, nag-hearing ka, nag-serve ka ng sentence mo, pagkatapos mong i-serve yung sentence mo, babalik ka ulit sa community pillar. The community accepts the re-entry and reintegration of ex-convicts. Okay? And letter B, as to auxiliary pillars, number 1, we have the PPA or the Parole and Probation Administration. Okay. Ang Parole and Probation Administration, they are the one who will supervise low risk and non-serious law violators. For example po sa probation, pag granted ka po ng probation, you should be convicted of imprisonment of not more than 6 years for you to be qualified for probation. The Parole and Probation Administration select inmates ready for re-entry of the society and those prisoners who have served the minimum of their sentence for parole. Okay. These pillars are all concerned in the prevention, control, and reduction of crime and delinquency. So, as we observe, the part 2 of our presentation, it focused on the justice and also the system. Okay. For our criminal justice system. Okay. So, I hope that you gain some knowledge with regards to our discussion for this presentation. And to be updated, please kindly click the notification bell for more upcoming videos. So that's all for today. So thank you and have a good day.